I don't like this. I don't like this. What going natural beauty? I wanted to come on. That's much Microsoft. I wanted to come on and talk about the debates yesterday because I think one of the weird things is that when politics time come round, we tend to sort of go back to the tribalistic kind of PNP versus JLP, and then everybody try to find fault about who mash up the country from who no mash up the country, and who was doing what right from who was doing what wrong. And it becomes almost kind of like an exercise in like regurgitating the same problems that we have had for the past 40 years. Because, JLP and PNP, we have been alternating between the two parties for as long as I can remember. And it's like once the party wins and elections are over, we forget. We forget like the party that we voted in. We forget to hold them accountable for the things that they say they were going to do, and we kind of start complaining about the same stuff, right? We complain about the things that we were complaining about before the election and during the election. And instead of now watching to see if the party is that has won is carrying out the mandate that they said that they will carry out, we just fall back into the routine of complaining and complaining and complaining. And it's like, but if we are not holding them accountable, if there's no way for us to measure what the party is doing, you know, compared to what they say they were going to do or whatever was in their manifesto, then it's like because we're the JLP has had the government for 9 years now. They have been the party in power, right? And it's like, okay, at this juncture, we should be very clear on the JLP's management of Jamaica. We should be very clear on whether or not we are satisfied with how the JLP have managed the country. And how would we determine if we are satisfied or not? We will determine if we are satisfied based on what they had in their manifesto. They said, whatever they said they were going to do, oh, we're going to deliver 40,000 houses. Did they give us 40,000 houses? Or we're going to fix 50% of the roads. I'm just saying, I'm not saying this is what they have said. I'm just kind of like giving examples. We're going to fix 50% of the roads. Did they fix 50% of the roads? You know what I mean? We're going to cut unemployment. We're going to bring unemployment down from whatever it was, I don't know, to XYZ percent. Have they brought it down to that? These are the things that we should be focusing on. Exactly, natural beauty. There's a different faces, same system is how I see it. Neither party is accountable. Because we're not holding them accountable. That's the problem. We're not holding these party people accountable. Instead, we kind of like shift the blame back and forth. We keep bouncing back and forth between who we think should be held responsible for the state of the country, right? And that is the problem. So when if the PNP wins, and let's say the PNP wins this election, right? It's like they're going to start bitching and complaining about the state of the country. And that is the problem. Because when I watched the debate last night and they were asked the questions, and it's like, but nobody's really answering the questions. I wonder how many questions were they asked? I think they were asked, um, how many questions were they asked? They were asked quite a few questions, about 20 questions or so. And in most of the questions, I think they were more concerned with talking points. You know, like them come prepare to say certain things, so they make sure so them get it out. The Probox minister of Probox. I was like, okay, fine, you get a little clip and that might go viral, but that's not why we're at the debate, you know. And I know that we as voters, we are the ones who are responsible for the gimmickry, because the public relations consultants are telling them that, because you know, as I can, because I couldn't run for politics because I don't have the time for the foolishness. And the thing is, you have to endear yourself to people. You have to be likable. It's not about whether or not you can do what you say you are going to do. It's whether or not people like it. That is how politics work. Like, and it's one of the craziest things. Like, people don't care if you can go in there and fix the system. They don't care about that. They care it how you get elected is your likability. Do they like me? And so politicians have mastered the art of manipulating people. And that is why we keep voting them back in, because then come and them full of shit, and that's what we want. And they go in, them enrich themselves, line them pockets, and we bitch and complain about the same thing for 40, 50 years. And we don't understand, so we are the problem. Because if when they go in, there's no, because you can't expect the government to hold itself accountable. That is true natural beauty. People people they can't, people are not holding them accountable, exactly, because most of the people are ignorant to what government is supposed to do. It's not even so them ignorant, you know, about what government is supposed to do, because it's quite simple. If when them go in, right, if all right, PMP said them are go fix the school bus system. JLP said them are go fix the school bus system. We see JLP buy some school bus and some foolishness go on this, all right? So it's kind of like we don't need to understand what government do. When they go in, come the next 5 years, come 2030, we can look and see did they fix the school bus system, right? They talk about giving access to Wi-Fi and the internet to um like rural schools and so on, because you know it's most of the school in the urban areas that have access to the Wi-Fi and stuff. So they said they're going to roll out the Wi-Fi in the rural school system so that those children can have access as well, right? So we can assess that and say, okay, from 2030, did they actually do that? Do we have no greater access to the internet in the rural schools? Right? We're looking at upgrading and building out health centers to ensure that more people have access to health care, right? So we can look and say, okay, how many health centers do we have? How many did they add? And how many have they refurbished? So we don't really need to, you just have to, they're telling us what they're going to do, you know. So all we need to do is to keep track of what they say they're going to do, and whether or not they actually did it. The problem with that is we are relying on them to tell us. You understand? So we are not really checking to see. Andrew come with a bag of fuckery at chat, Wayne do, right? Which literally happened in the last year. Like you in the for 9 years, and when you know say you start do things because you know say you go call election. So we have to go sit down and wait for another 4 year no before you start do nothing because you try win back now for 2030. That does not make any sense, but that's what they do because that is what he has done at the very least in this election, where he has basically uh, put a lot of effort into getting things done right in the heat of him calling the election, doing the campaign and stuff like that. And I think because it's a tactic because you're looking at recency bias because people are going to remember the most recent thing that you have done. And I think that is part of the reason why he decided to start doing a lot of the things you hear the PMP complaining about, the ribbon cutting and all of that, right? So I think that like we're falling back into just whichever side you're on. Well, you see the set election date. I don't know. I'll have to do more research on the set election date. I think though that I don't know if a fixed date would work for us. I don't know if a fixed election date would work for us. 'Cause the the only issue I see with like them not even having a fixed election date is that the prime minister can call the election at will. I don't know why we need a fixed election date because if you look at the constitution, the only thing that they need to do as far as the constitution is concerned, because the fixed election date is already there, it's just that the prime minister can dissolve parliament at any time. That's the problem. So, what do I mean by the fixed election date? Technically, right, if you look at the constitution, the prime minister has to dissolve parliament on the fifth 5 year anniversary that parliament was convened. So, the 5 year anniversary of our parliament is going to be September 14. So, come September, I mean, the election don't call already, but the prime minister would be forced by law to dissolve parliament on September 14, and he would be forced by law to call the election on September 14 because you have 3 months between the dissolution of parliament and you forming the new government. That is already in law. The difference is that the prime minister can, let's say, 2 years into him term, and him feel like say if him call an election, him can win. Him can dissolve parliament and call the election. So I think that is the problem. But as far as a fixed election date is concerned, he is constrained by the date that parliament has to be dissolved. So I don't really see it as a big issue because at the end of the day, if you're the opposition, you're supposed to be working. So if the government call election at any time, you're supposed to can win. It's just like if you're at work, right? And the owner fee the place where you are work come. You're not supposed to run up and down like a headless chicken because if you're doing what your boss pays you to do, you don't care if him show up unannounced or not because you're doing your job. So when he comes, you know business with him because you are doing what you're supposed to do. So I don't know about the fixed election date. I don't see it. Maybe I could hear other views on it, but I don't see it as a big deal right now because that is the least of our problem. It is not something that I would focus on because of all the problems that Jamaica have, chiefest of which is an economic issue, right? We have an economic problem where our country is not being run by the people. Oh, oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, but and this is the thing, the politicians like to feed off our ignorance. They make it seem like, oh, the fixed election date is a thing. The date is already fixed. It's just that. All right, let's put it like this. You have a Netflix subscription, right? So you subscribe to Netflix and you pay your $10.99 for the month. When you look at this subscription, it has a date when the subscription ends. So if you go to your account, it will tell you your subscription will automatically renew on August 31st, right? So it simply means that you have up until August 31st to either cancel your subscription or your subscription will automatically renew. You can cancel the subscription at any time during August. But you know, say come August 31st, if you don't cancel it, it's going to roll over. Automatically, it's going to roll over. So it's the same thing with the election. If the Prime Minister does not officially come out and announce an election date on the fifth anniversary that Parliament was convened, it automatically go dissolve. And once Parliament is dissolved, there's no government. So them have to call an election. But they don't want to tell us that we fixed the election date. Like the election date is already fixed. All you need to do, I guess, if you don't want the Prime Minister to call election at will, is to remove that component where he can call the election at will. But the maximum, when you go in power, you are allowed 5 years. So when the 5 year done, you have to call the election full stop. That is already in the Constitution. So it's just that during that 5 year period, after 1 year of power, because Siaga did it, I think, in the 80s and won by a landslide, you can always dissolve Parliament at any time and call an election. So I guess that is just that uncertainty during that 5 year window where at any point in time, the Prime Minister can say, yo, election are on, right, and call the election. No, what I would do is, I don't really think that there should be really a fixed election date per se. What they can do in terms of notice is to say, okay, if you call the election before Parliament is due to be dissolved, then there has to be a 3-month window of time where we can get our ducks in a row and campaign or whatever. That is also the problem with that, though. The problem with that, I had the same idea, but the problem with that is, you're saying that you don't think that he should be able to run 3 times, but that is I feel the problem that because if we vote him in 3 times, that's a our issue and not a government issue. But I understand. I think you're looking at it from the U.S. perspective, where in the United States of America, the president can only sit for 2 terms, whether consecutive or otherwise. I understand what you're saying, but you have to understand that America has 333 million people. Them can't run out of people for run for government. We only have 3 million and a half, and we don't. So it's like, you have to be. It's kind of like, do we have the volume of people who are interested in politics? Because even though I probably would do well, I am not going into politics, right? And because you see how it is, and people generally in Jamaica, we are very selfish. As long as I am benefiting, as long as me get my house, as long as Andrew come in my corner shop and stack out my shop, as long as Andrew buy my donkey because me want one donkey, not that him fix the fucking road because you have the donkey because no road no did it. And instead of saying, okay, then we need to fix the road so we can hire one taxi to carry me goods go market, you want donkey, right? So because you get your donkey, you're good. That is how Jamaica is. So most people like myself would not go in politics because politics is very corrupting. And if you go in there, no one will feel to say, oh, you're good, because people don't understand. There is no justice for people who are on the right side, who are trying to make a difference. You go there, you go, like I say, you go there, you and Jesus are two first cousins, then kill your clot. That is just the reality of the situation. Because when you have a system that is set up, that is benefiting some people, them not care say you are suffering. Them just care say them good, them nice. And you are going no one try to change that, them kill you. And that's just the long and short of the story. Or them find some, because you know how the media steer, whether it's true or false, as long as they put out there, somebody go and believe it. It's just that simple. If them all them have to do is do some a kind of character assassination. Because the way the world works now, if a man leaks something online about you, you're going to have 1 in 2 people who believe you. When proof come out, say nothing go so. People going to still roll and panic. Because they go say, I threaten you, threatening if you can't tell lie. Say, go so or whatever. They're not going to believe the evidence. You're still going to have some people who believe the lie. So they can commit this character assassination of you and get away with it in this day and age. Because most people are prone to conspiracies and then go and believe us out of foolishness. So easy to get rid of one little good, because remember, if you're a good person, you are not going to go to the length where they are going to go to destroy you, to prove say what they're saying is lie. Because if they are playing dirty, you're going to have to play dirty too. And then if you're playing dirty and they're playing dirty, then both of your hands are dirty. So how can you take the moral high ground? You can't take the high road. Because for them and dirty and for you and dirty too. So you would be a hypocrite, to be out here pretending as if you are the good guy. So unless we change the system, which is not going to happen, because like I said, once me get my little 50 chicken and 5 bag of feed now some boat stuff, me nice. Or me 50 black and 2 bag of cement because me want to put on one back room and politician don't drop black and cement. Me no business. And that is how Jamaica is. Everybody want to eat a food, and as long as them make you eat a food, nothing is going to change. And then we see one eat a food and come a bitch and complain about the systemic issues that we have. And that is the problem. And so when you look at the debate, I don't know if you guys watched it. I streamed it on TikTok because I tend to have more people. When I go live on TikTok, I tend to have more people watch the live than when I go live on Instagram. Because even right now, I have like 196 people active and nobody watching the live. And sometimes it takes you like an hour of being live before you actually get people coming on. And it's kind of, because like you can't sit down for 45 minutes not saying anything. And then by the time you're 1 hour in the live, that's when most people start joining. But on TikTok, I'd get like 30, 40, 50 people on the live when I do it. But my core following is on Instagram, which is kind of weird, but I guess live is more TikTok than Instagram. So I don't know. But I was streaming the debate last night live on TikTok, right? And when you look at the questions that were asked, there were some very good questions that the debates commission asked, and them not answer the question then. And that was one of the most vexing things for me, because it's like you're trying to score political points, you're trying to get your punchline in. The TikTok is Truth Media TV. It's Truth Media TV. It's the problem with social media now is that you have to be everywhere, because you have to be on YouTube, you have to be on Instagram, and it's so, I don't know. It's one of the things that I hate, because you have to be on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and it's like, I don't know. It's a bit much, but then that's just how social media is. You have to be basically everywhere. But the best place for me, as far as a live is concerned, is TikTok, because I get more viewers on. I had 300 people on my live last night, because TikTok shows you how many people tuned into the live. When the live ends, it gives you like some analytics, right? And I had 300 people tune in to the live, right? But I haven't been live on Instagram. I know people will, like, if I save the live and post it, people will watch it afterwards, but it's kind of like defeat the purpose, because the whole point of going live is to have that live conversation with people as you're talking, so it can drive the conversation and you can get feedback. Because I don't want to be in kind of like a echo chamber where I am talking to myself and I don't know, you don't have a different perspective that you can consider, or somebody challenging something that you're saying, that you can probably reconsider your views, or you can double down on what you're saying because, it's making sense. One of the questions that they asked, because I had to quit my job, I started a whole YouTube channel, different, separate, because my original channel is kind of still shadow banned. It doesn't matter what I post, I don't get any followers or anything. So because I was posting about the COVID thing, you know how that goes. Once they strike you, you kind of like get tossed in a little sinkhole, and you can't grow. Because this channel, if you notice, this channel that I'm on now on Instagram, it's stuck at 2,000 followers. And my other channel, On Her Truth, has almost 9,000 followers. And it's because this channel has been shadow banned. So it's a weird dynamic, because like once they start to flag your account for posting misinformation or whatever, you get put in a little jail that nobody knows. You don't know. You're just not getting any views. You're just not getting any followers, because you are in this invisible jail that you're not aware of. And the only way you're going to know you're in a one jail is when you create a different account and you see how the traffic to that. Because I created a new account, I created a different account from this one, and it has almost 9,000 followers. And it has never received any strikes or anything. So it's not shadow banned or anything, but this account is shadow banned. It's been stuck at 2,000 something followers for God knows how long now. And I don't know if people are seeing the live, because I had like 196 people online right now when I started, and I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so there was one question. Oh, this is not it. There were some questions that were given to the PNP, and there were some questions that were given to the JLP, right? the, the the issue that I had was that they were not answering the question, which is a very vexing issue, because it's like, we come to hear what you have to say. The debate, to me, is where we get most of the information, because the debates are structured and timed. So you don't have this long-winded explanation of, whatever. You have 1 minute and 45 seconds to answer the question, or you have 45 seconds to give a rebuttal, or you have 30 seconds to do a follow-up answer, or whatever the case may be. So you have to get to the point, right? So to me, the debates are like a good place for us to gauge who have them shit together from who don't know what they're doing. And yet we have the first round, to me, was a disappointment. I hear TVJ saying that the JLP won, right? But let's see how many questions they answered. So of the 8 questions that were directed to them specifically, they answered 1, 2, 3. Of the 8 questions that the PNP got, they answered 3, that them answer the actual question, right? Of the 8 questions that the JLP got, they answered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They answered 6 directly. So this is the issue that we're having. If them ask you, what are you going to do about the healthcare system? I don't need you to tell me that the JLP freed up the system. Like, that is not relevant to the question. Okay, this is the plan that we have for fixing healthcare. We're going to refurbish. We're going to ensure that within the first year we allocate the remaining $24 billion to get the Cornwall Regional Hospital refurbished, up and running. We're going to refurbish 50 healthcare centers within the first 2 years of what. That's what I want to hear. That's you answering the question. Not tell me about no dead baby scandal and has dead and crow fat and the Minister of Education is not here tonight because this, that, and the third. It's like, come on. Answer the frigging question and stop with the bullshit. I don't need you to be pointing finger. You can't be pointing finger if you're telling me to vote for you. Because what's the point of me voting for you if all you have are complaints? What are your plans? Answer the question. I don't need you to be blaming anybody. And they keep having this back and forth where each person is blaming the other. And it's like, then why the fuck am I voting for you? We know what the problems are. The whole Jamaica know what the problems are in Jamaica. We don't need you to tell us what the problems are. And we don't need you to blame each other because guess what? The two of you are 50-50 for the past 40 years in power. JLP and PNP, when you do the maths, they have held power for relatively the same amount of time. The only difference being the PNP had the longest running what you call it. They had 3 consecutive terms under PJ, right? That is the only thing. That's the only difference. Them have like that 3-year, I think it was what, 14 years or 18 years or something like that. It was 18 years because PJ went on it over to Portia in 1992 and Portia had won. So PJ held it for 14 years and then Portia won. And so Portia got that 4 years, so it was 18 years. That's the only thing you can complain about in terms of, well, the PNP had enough time in government to fix most of the stuff. But as far as holding the reins of government, both the JLP and the PNP has had equal amount of time in terms of number of years in power. Since independence, they have both had the same amount of time. And now Andrew has had 2 terms. And they're going, if he win again, that would be 3 terms. So it's like, at this point, the JLP has no excuse because you've been there for 9 years. You have been there for 9 years. And what I think, too, that we should probably do is when it comes to governance and the core issues, right? We need to get our ducks in a row when it comes to policy. You can't have a situation where PNP come in and JLP when I do something good and them decide to say, oh, we're not doing that, and then shut it down. You have to act in the interest of the country. You can't go because, okay, this is what we want. We don't give a fuck about what you want to do. Whatever is working, that is what we want you to continue with. So if the Andrew in there and if Andrew had some good things going on, we don't expect PNP to come in and change it. We don't expect you to come in and change it. We expect you to come in and continue the program and finish it, and you give credit where credit is due. Because at the end of the day, you know, when it comes to macroeconomic policies, they are going to take at least 15 years for you to kind of like see it flesh out. And I know people want to take, you know, that, well, you know, everybody want to take, oh, it's our idea, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. But like at the end of the day, you can still do your assessment in terms of how well you did. Yes, we credit you with coming up with the program, getting it to this leg of the road, but we don't need to, I don't think it should be a talking point in any election if it is a program that is in continuation and is, you know, soon to be complete. Like, we don't really need to talk about that because it's not a problem now. We need to address the issues, right? So they asked them about, this was to the JLP, how will you ensure youngsters aren't outbid by older Jamaicans in the housing market? And they basically, what they answered, this is a synopsis. Can you know them get one minute and 45 seconds to answer me and chat everything with them say. So they said they were going to raise the minimum wage, and expand NHT loans, and then they promise to support young buyers. How is raising the minimum wage going to, how is that going to help young people to buy a house? Because right now, okay, if you raise, where you go raise the minimum wage to? Because you have to be realistic. The minimum wage, the minimum wage is constrained by small businesses. A person who has a little restaurant and employs 2 people cannot pay them $30,000 a week. They can't, because restaurant business make the profit margin is very small. It's between 3 to 10% that restaurant makes in profit, and they have to have tight portion controls and tight control on their overheads. And of course, most people who have a little cook shop don't know nothing about managing cost and finances. They don't. They don't. Restaurant, the profit margin for restaurants is very small. So them can't pay people no big money. If you come a restaurant, you come in a restaurant, go and take people out and collect the money and give them back then change. They can't pay them no. You want to ice cream shop and you hire one somebody to serve the ice cream, or 2 somebody. One to collect the money and one to serve the ice cream. You can't pay them 30 grand a week. Where you forget it from? Unless you don't sell the ice cream for the Blue Na Giant. So I don't know why they keep talking about raising the minimum wage. The minimum wage is not the issue. I know there is this focus on minimum wage because people don't understand why there is a minimum wage in the first place. We have a minimum wage because of unfair dealings in the employment sector. Employers are not paying people well, and that is why the government is now forced, because really and truly there should be no minimum wage. People should be able to negotiate them pay, but you can't negotiate if there's no information about salaries or pay scales or how to cost a job, right? There is no, we don't have any information. Nobody don't know how to cost a job. Okay, I am a cashier, because remember, I know a cashier, if I am doing if let's say you have one little shop, one little store, and you hire me as a cashier, right? Versus I'm a cashier at Price Mart, versus I'm a cashier at the front desk of a 1,500 room hotel. You see the difference? You with the little store can pay me double na giant, but the 1,500 room hotel can afford to pay me $60,000 a week. You can't. And this is what people don't understand. So there really shouldn't be no minimum wage. You would pay the person based on what you can afford to pay them, right? Or based on what we say, okay, because obviously over time you're going to have a reasonable idea of what certain jobs are valued at, right? So, okay, if you have one little cashier, you have one little clothing store and you hire somebody to do the little cashiering or whatever, right? You know, make no much money. You probably can only pay them $15,000 a week or maybe $17,000 a week. But if you have a big old everlasting hotel, we don't expect to say you have to pay the people them $17,000 because you can afford to pay more. And the volume of customers and transactions are way more versus you may in the store for the whole day and you don't make a sale, or maybe a 2-3 somebody come in there. You understand? Or you go cash $50,000 worth of goods for the day. Whereas at a big hotel, you are looking at probably $500,000 to $1 million or more. $2 million, $5 million in transaction. So the size of the business and the volume of transaction plus revenue are vastly different. So you understand? But a minimum, the government is using minimum wage, which all the employers do is then pass on the cost to the customers. So if government tell you say you have to charge, you have to pay your cashier $20,000 a week, where you go? Do you go raise the price of the goods? because you can't afford to pay the cashier the $20,000. So you have to go increase the price of the goods where you are sell, so you can't afford to pay the cashier. That's how it works. And businesses who don't need to raise the price of their goods are going to raise the price of their goods anyway, because they're going to be like, oh, well, the government said XYZ, and I'm going to use that as an excuse to raise the prices. That's how it works. And there is nothing in law that is telling them that you can't do that. Which, if you're going to raise the minimum wage, you have to force them not to increase the price of their goods and services. And I'm talking about businesses, and to me, the minimum wage should be kept for, it should be, let's just say, just for small businesses. If you hire anywhere between 1 and 5 people, minimum wage is for you. Anybody hire anybody more than that, you don't have to pay them more money. Full stop. You can't pay them more, you have to pay them more. So therefore, when you raise the minimum wage, it's only people with 1 to 5 employees in their establishment that can raise the price of them stuff, if that is the case. But but the hotel can't all of a sudden now decide to say, okay, we're going to charge more for room because government say ask the damn crow fat. You can't do that. The supermarket, ILO can decide to raise goods because government has say you have to pay the people with the pack shelf more money, because it wouldn't impact them, because you're not hiring 1 to 5 people, you're hiring more than that. So you shouldn't be paying minimum wage in the first place. So the increase in the minimum wage does not affect you. Or they could look at it by revenue to say, okay, because overheads should be a certain salary should be maybe 2% of your revenue. And when we say revenue, we mean sales. So if you sell $2 million worth of goods, then 2% of that should go towards salary. So when you do, and all of these things are obvious. So when you do accounting, and you break out the overheads, there are certain things that we assign a percentage. You say, okay, wages and salaries is supposed to be typically 2 to 3% of revenue. When you're looking at cost of goods sold should be 30% of revenue, stuff like that. So you can, they can use that metric to determine, based on the size of your business, what the minimum wage should be. Because they say, okay, if you're making $10 million a year, then the minimum wage will be $15,000 a week, because we know you can't pay it, because you're not going to employ more than 2 somebody anyway. You know what I'm saying? So they can do that, but of course, as bright as them say them be, clearly them not that bright. So I don't know why they keep focusing on raising the minimum wage, because minimum wage can't afford, you can't buy house for minimum wage. If you make minimum wage, you can't buy house. $16,000 a week, you can't buy house for that, because house, they are 17 million to much $1 million, for $17 million up. You know, much years ago, go take if you work $17 million, when they put on tax plan that they clear, because remember, so them I go tell us, say, depending on how young you be, you have up until you must be 65 years old to pay that shit back. So you know they're going to apply the interest money, and $17 million going to turn into $34 million or $50 million for one fucking house when you don't pay for. Which is why me not trust none, because me not pay so much money for one house. They ask them what deterrent they will put in place against industrial pollution in the rare cobra that kills fish. And they pledge stronger regulatory enforcement and accountability. That sounds vague. Then they ask how they will balance large entertainment events with the rights of residents. They talk about better urban planning and economic benefits. But when it comes to entertainment events, I think, I don't know who had mentioned entertainment zones, but I do believe, because with a lot of people working from home now, it can't be business as usual, because when you're there at work and you're working for a foreign company and you need to have a noiseless background, you can't have people you can't have Bugoyaga music playing in your ears. And I remember when I lived on Umber Avenue, there was a car wash literally next door, and the music. And I'm like, you cannot be playing music where people, you can't have a round robin where people live. That does not make any sense. You you like literally you know how it's not like country where you have a neighbor but your neighbor no, you understand, your neighbor no they like ucha and pan where you there. Them they are son, you understand, if you walk around one corner before you see your neighbor and then you walk one next, you understand, there's no real neighbor that you feel and them yard literally is just a fence back you have. Right? At least where I live, we had neighbors, but them couldn't turn off them yard and looking after the yard. So if them a make noise I have music a play, it really not affect me like that because we are not that close. The car wash man literally almost below on the wall. And the music was so, and I had to go to work in the night, so it affected me because I couldn't sleep when them have the music going on, and then there's just nothing that you can do about it because there are really no laws against it unless they're going past 2:30 a.m. in the morning. And I feel that I don't think that residents, you're not supposed to enter your house and be inconvenienced by people having a party. It shouldn't be. So there should be like everywhere else in the world where you make a space, you soundproof it, and you have your stuff there. I believe in that. I don't know why we, because we I see it at hotels. I which hotel? I went to, Jesus, was it Ibero Star? I don't know if this was like years ago, so I don't know if they still but Ibero Star, their entertainment room on the downstairs. You're passing by the door, you don't hear, you know, hear pin drop when you open the door, you're going there and the place that tear down. So I do think that they should have like economic zones. You cannot have party in a where people are actually living. Media might be than you in a your yard that have round robin with this loud music. No. So I don't know. They need to do something about that. Then they ask about the public hospitals. And they never really answer this question. So they did talk about investments in the infrastructure and staffing, but they weren't very specific on the timeline. Because remember, say, from what people fill up tough and say Cornwall Regional fix and all. No, because I guess they had some issue with mold and stuff like that. And then we have the issue with the um staffing where we don't have enough nurses and doctors available. So I think we need more hospitals. Um, they're getting all this funding, and I don't know, like to me right now, education, healthcare, right? When you're looking at the overall impact and benefit to the economy, education and healthcare are kind of like those two major things that we should be focusing on. So if we have a good healthcare system, right, and we have a good education system, and then we can look at building out the infrastructure in terms of the roads and ensuring that everyone has access to light, internet, and water. I think instead of working to digitize Jamaica, they should be working to ensure that everybody have road can garden yard, everybody have access to electricity, everybody have access to the NHT water supply, and everybody have access to the internet. Right? Because right now where my mother they flow no down this up. Flow no run down this up. I plan them up put on them phone. So we need to build out the infrastructure and ensure that like the root, because Jamaica is not that big. It's not like the United States of America where, Jamaica is not that big. So we can build out the infrastructure in terms of the road, ensure that people have access to electricity, ensure, because right now most people in the rural areas are them happy put up them own a post, because that's what my mom had to do. How she get the light, and she have to put up her own or something to go up a road to get the light from GPS, because GPS now no infrastructure down that part. That's how it is. So in the rural areas, is people have to put up them only because something to get the light from GPS. GPS now no why we run down after them place. So um we need that kind of infrastructure. They talk about why our rural parish is still behind technology, because technologically, because there is no infrastructure there for them. Because how you go run Wi-Fi in a place where not even flow no day? How then go get Wi-Fi? Where then go get it from? Because it's people don't understand it is the okay. If I go downtown, right? Even though I don't know why they're rolling out the Wi-Fi and then the private, it's one of the stupidest things. You're going to the town and the Wi-Fi available, but you can't access it because password depend. When you're in the US, most of the when I go to the US, I don't roam, because everywhere you can access free Wi-Fi. If you're going to the train station Wi-Fi free. Everywhere you go, free Wi-Fi did it. Of course, you have public, because most businesses, and then most businesses, if you walk in and you're buying something, they'll give you the password if it is password protected. In a Jamaica, you go everywhere Wi-Fi available and you can access none of them because everybody private, which is ridiculous. If you're a business and you're broadcasting Wi-Fi, why is the Wi-Fi not like? Why you have a lock on it? You go to Canada, it's the same thing. Everywhere you turn, you get free. There are some obviously that are because maybe it's like private. Like if I am going about my business, or media my yard and me have Wi-Fi. Of course, my Wi-Fi is broadcasting, so you'll pick it up, but it's private because it's my private home network. But if it's a business, like why your Wi-Fi private? Me not understand. But in Jamaica, get free Wi-Fi everywhere you go. The Wi-Fi them lock. Yes, you can get there's a list of 10 Wi-Fi broadcasting, but everybody have lock panding thing. You can afford, you can access it. So you have to have, if me they go downtown right now, me have to put on a 1 day plan, because where you go, you're not going to get no, yes, Wi-Fi did the broadcast, but you're not going to get on funny. Them talk about the civil servant salaries. We have, I think the government needs to come up with a way, something, just like how them claim say, although me think I like them at the PAYE when we pay the police them. I think they need some revenue. One of the revenue streams that they have, they need to dedicate it to paying the public sector workers. And when I say public sector workers, because me not really talk about like the regular people them, where like the work at ministry and them now do nothing, like them did for the whole fucking day and they not do nothing. And then if God in a mountain come and collect their money. I'm talking about like the nurses, the doctors, the teachers, the police, those sort of people where their role are critical. I mean, I really talk like the people when they work at tax office where are they in the NIS office where sometimes them go there 5 days a week and nothing no grand. So it's like, and then you have 10 somebody in the office and 9 of them now nothing to do. They just did it. Right? Because I think there are a lot of people working for the government that are not actually doing anything. Then go work and there's just them not need to do that. They not much I do and they collect their money at the end of the month. Right, but we're talking about the critical roles like the nurses and the teachers and the doctors and the police and the firemen. You know, those people are critical to the functioning of the society. So when it comes to for them pay, we're not supposed to ramp, because at the end of the day, people have to can think about themselves and how they're going to take care of their family. Because me not go sit down in Jamaica as a nurse and a suffer when me can go far and go make double on a giant. You're left. So if you don't want them to leave, you cannot say, oh well, it's you, because patriotism can. You feel to say when your mortgage due the bank, I go care say you're a nurse and you dey take care of people for hospital. You know business with that. They want them to like money. You feel to say you can walk in a supermarket and say, boy, I'm a nurse, you know, and the government now to pay no money too tough, you know. So guess what? Me don't want a 50% discount on the items because they can't really to afford and food that thing. Yeah. No, you don't, they no business with that. So at the end of the day, survival trumps everything. And if people have to survive, you know, because right now nurses are in high demand, especially for hospice care. There are a lot of people who start these because them get subsidy from the government, and it's a lucrative business where they have these elder care facilities, and they use real nurses and they pay them well, and the benefits are good. So if you there Jamaica and you have make $300,000 a month as a nurse, or I don't know how much they make, right? Around $150,000 a month as a nurse. And you can go foreign, go make 45 US dollar hour. And you don't do as much work as you do at Jamaica. All you do make sure so the old people them take them pill. But you think I go on? Because me know people come to Jamaica, you come recruit nurse, you know. Come down here for them, carry them up, make sure so they get their work permit, put them a place to live, provide housing and everything. Because that their business depend on it, and the US nurses are, you know, you Americans say they love Sue and they complain about everything, bitch and complain about everything. Jamaican they no time for that because the money then go for make. So then go and then work and them no complain. So I know personally of somebody who has an elder care facility in the States and then come to Jamaica, feed the nurse them, carry them back up, they put them in a house and everything, pay for the work permit, whatever the case might be, to come work in them business. So we can't out the ramp with the people. We can't do that. Pay the people their money, man. You know, we have to be very pragmatic when it comes to, because people have to look out for themselves. This is like, it's not like say we got, you know, it's like say me sitting here so and boy me is a multi-millionaire, so me is a nurse and me I do it because you know it gives me fulfillment and joy. It's like time hard. And we come from poor family and we have student loan to pay and we are mortgage with the parents. So you can't tell me say we do it for my country because how that I go pay my bills? You think JPS not go cut off your light if you not pay? Because they not partially no. They not give you no chance. Then they cut off that shit. Flow say where you put me. Then they cut it off. So the only thing you probably is like if you rent place, then can't really to throw you out like that if you decide to say you know come out. They might cause angle and bad and rare, but then can't take you out of the house. But the light I go cut off and the internet I go cut off. And you can't get no food for them because you can't go supermarket, go tell people say boy you're a nurse and you love your country and they not pay you no money but you're not live. I know so it work. So people have to do what they have to do to survive and take care of their family. So we can't sit here and I tell them say it's not reasonable, and the government are making it seem like so that they have the money. The problem is the Jamaican government is not running the country. So they are being told by outside parties that them have to cut public sector spending. That's why the nurse them and the teacher don't get their money. It's not because the government can't afford to give them the money, to give them the raise. It's because whoever they run the country and use them as proxy, I tell them say you can't do that shit. Because remember, say that's what it was the IMF. Remember, say when they went to borrow money from IMF when hotel like a bull book and ducky conqueror tell them say I say you can't raise now, and there was a 5-year wage freeze. Remember that? So how then give themselves 200% increase. And we know you tick back about it. How were they able to give them? Oh, we have to retain the best talent. So we don't retain the nurse and the doctor and the teacher them too. We don't retain the best talent in our education system, just in government. And we don't see what we do for the 50 year, for the 63 year with Jamaica gain independence of BFO. We know they do. And you talk about we have to retain the best. Where we have in a parliament right now is not the best because everyone want and can barely read. And some of them they don't know them mother from a fucking broomstick because in a Jamaica reading and writing is not a prerequisite figure in a parliament. Anybody can run. He, she, and the old lady, even dog, can run as member of parliament and win. You don't need to be educated to be a member of parliament in Jamaica. So me don't know what kind of best and brightest what the boy name Nigel Clark when I talk about when he raised the PMPs, when he raised the MPs salary because I know best and brightest are running a politics. And whosoever will make come. But we know nursing is a profession, skilled profession. So is being a doctor or a teacher. You can't just run go teach so. Because you have to be able to learn, and learning is a skill. People didn't know that. And you have to be able to impart knowledge. Teaching is the art of assisting discovery. And as a teacher, this is what people don't know. You have to be able to learn a subject quickly and then teach it. Because when I teach, most of the stuff that they give me to teach, I never know, me don't know about them. I teach financial management, I don't know about financial management. I never teach before. I had an accounting background and that was it. That when me see somebody family, I see them, I never see them as in Bali before. I mean, I have to go learn that shit. I had to go and learn it. Me have to learn the thing and then come back and teach it. But you have to know how to learn. You have to know how to study. And that's a skill. Me teach economics. Me never do economics when me the gas school. I me teach economics. I mean, have to learn that shit. I mean, of course, when I do accounting, we did the supply and demand and the curves and stuff, but it was just introductory stuff. It wasn't anything for you if you go teach economics, right? And I had to understand. I had to make sure I understand what utility is and be able to explain a util of whatever, because you have the law of diminishing returns and what does that mean, right? Because when me learn it, me don't know what I mean. You just regurgitate what the teacher say and you put it on the test and you pass and you go about your business. You don't know nothing. Because let's face it, after the time we go to school and them not teach with stuff, you don't really understand what them are teaching. Just memorize this stuff and you fling it back on the test paper and I write this letter pack and put it on your pass. But in order for you to teach someone something, you need to understand it, because if you don't understand, you can't teach it. Me teach menu engineering, and I don't know no cooking. Me have to go learn that shit. So teaching is a skill. People don't understand that, because most of the time, that's why you see them. Most of the time, the teachers don't the subject where they teach. Because if you go teachers college, you know that teachers college, some people do specialize. You may have like a math teacher or a social study teacher, whatever. But most of the time, the stuff them when they give the teacher, you have a teacher will teach social studies. And all that then got teacher, so teachers college we teach. Then get the syllabus and then get the book and they have to go figure that shit out. They tell them that them have to go read that, do them own research, write up their lesson plan and come teach it to you. And then I do accounts and they have me teach other stuff. I can teach accounting. I mean, know it. I can teach, like, I could teach CXC accounts or whatever, right? But if you teach like financial management and cost accounting, that's more technical. But if then you teach, you have to figure it out. Teaching is a skill. Learning is a skill. But they don't tell you that. So I know anybody can just get up, but that's why sometimes you will find you'll have a teacher who probably have the subject knowledge, but them just you can't see them know this stuff, but they just can't explain it so you get it. Because teaching is a skill. It is a skill. A lot of people don't know that. So Them if you pay the teacher them the money, and I don't see anyone has like a plan that they. It's like them a beat around the bush, them a beat around the bush, them a beat around the bush, and it's like there is like I think there is a foreign power that is telling them that they need to cut public sector spending, and of course, the public sector spending has to do with the civil servants. So the nurses and the doctors and the teachers, them just now go get the money, and that's it. So I still believe, I mean, it don't gone but well, gone but because them can roll it back, and what are they going to do? Them a thief the money anyway. No MP now go say, well, if you cut my $11 million down to $8 million, me not go turn MP anymore. They not do that shit. I think they were overpaid. They're paying them too much money. You can't move from $4 million to $11 million. That's more than 100% increase. Then could have moved them from $4 million to give them what a standard, because a manager now make $11 million. They're not making that. Maybe a hotel GM will be making anywhere between $10 to $15 million, but a regular manager now make $11 million. So them, to me, them could have raised the MP's salary to 7 million, 8 million tops. 11 million is too much. The prime minister could have get maybe 17 million. I don't think that would be a bad thing. So it's almost 100% increase anyway, but 17 million I think would be reasonable for the prime minister to get at this juncture. And then you could kind of like maybe say every 5 years you do an increase or something like that. That's what I would say. Right? Every 5 years you do an increase. Because that would be the end of their term anyway. Right? You do an increase and whatever. Because to me, if you were running the country well, nobody would be complaining about how much they pay you, because we can afford to pay you. You know what I mean? Like, if Jamaica was doing so fine and everybody is doing well and everybody eat a food and Ray, we don't care if you want to pay yourself $40 million, because we have the money to pay you the $40 million. Like, so what? But then the regular people are struggling. Everybody is struggling. Everybody have to pinchy Kobe. Everybody have to band them belly and tighten them waist and, you know, cutting back here and there. And you are giving yourself 200% increase in a salary. And I say, oh, well. When we looked at this and we look, okay, but when I look at the market research for the role that I had, it was valued at $4.5 million, and I wasn't making not even half of that. I was making under $2 million when I did the market research. And of course, I gave that to my company. I asked for a raise. I didn't ask for $4 million because I don't even think the manager is getting $4 million. But I'm like, hey, this is what the research has shown. This is what you're paying me. I need a raise. And then didn't fight for me. So me left. Because Halliburton day is done. Me a big dirty man know my year drop off and me now finally or nothing. So me fling out my resignation and left them. We can do that as regular people say, oh, you do market research and you find out say your salary they in the gutter, so they need. They don't do it. They know business with you. You want to left your left if you don't want to left your tande. Because we don't have that kind of bargaining power to demand anything. So how are you now coming to demand? You just arbitrarily decide to say, well, when we do the research and we look at what a bank, a bank manager is getting or whatever they're getting, it is in line with. But sir, if the whole of if you do that, everybody's salary have to raise. Come on, Mr. Jamaica don't have access to no salary information out there. If somebody are going to establish, if somebody apply for your job right now, ask them if they know what the job pay. They don't know. They don't. And where can you go to find that information? The Ministry of Labor has no labor information. How that, like, it makes no fucking sense. You are the Ministry of Labor, and there is nothing on your website that people can go to look at, to see the different industries that we have in Jamaica, the different roles that are typically in those industries and the pay ranges. Nothing. And it's not that they can't get the information, they can. Because the whole of it they pay tax. Every employer have to pay, so they know what people are getting. So they have the information. They fucking do, because the employers are taking the taxes out. Everybody get a pay stub when you say NIS, NHT, whatever. So the government know how much will they get paid. So why they don't have that information on the website? So when they go apply, if you want to work, you can go on the Ministry of Labour website and you can look for the industry where you're applying, and you can look for the role where you apply for, and you can say, okay, when me go in at the interview, me know so them have to pay me between 2 million and 2.5 million. So me go and make sure so me not left out there unless they give me 2.3. No, you don't know. So you're walking at that fucking interview and until they say, oh, we're paying you 1.7 and 1.7 you're gone with, when them supposed to pay you between 2 and 2.5. And that is been going on before me, but until now, that is what is happening in this country. Because the whole of the people when they do recruiting, as much as we are Jamaican, we hate it. One of the like those are blood clot poison. We decide to say, okay, I'm going to fuck you up. So you come in at this interview, yeah, I mean, know how much. So me, I go ask you, how much were you getting before? And you go tell them, say, boy, you know, so the place I mean, I work at 1.5, they will not pay me. Brass, dog, yeah, me your supply. Because they not pay you that $2 million. Then I go give you 1.7. When a $2 million the role start at. This is the Jamaica that we live in. So, and if we don't do something about it, nothing is going to change. And it is on us to ensure that we kind of speak to the change that we want to see. Anyways, I've talked long enough. I'm going to watch a series. I'm watching The Good Wife. I don't know when I'm going to come live again. If I'm coming live, I'm not coming back on this channel. I'm going to go on the other channel because for some reason, when I go live, I don't think people are seeing the alert. I get more people when I go on my other account because I think this account is still shadow banned. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with it. Anyways, I'm out. Mm. I didn't end this one.